Hi, everybody. My name is Courtney Schlottman, and today I'm going to do my tribute speech on helping athletes prevent strains and sprains while playing sports. From a personal experience, I have been an athlete for the last 15 to 16 years, and I would have been greatly appreciative if I had known this before I experienced these injuries and made them much worse than if I had just taken care of them or tried to avoid them in the proper ways. Unfortunately, the majority of athletes do go through many tears in their career, and if they have knowledge of how to avoid them, it would save many, many careers. To get started, I'm going to let you guys know a little bit more about the injuries. To Athletes work hard, play hard, and this makes them very sustainable to injuries. Each year, more than 10 million sports injuries occur. However, athletes can still take preventative measures to lower the risks of losing playing time. I know that is one of the biggest concerns being an athlete is if you are going to get that playing time when you rightfully deserve it. There are many different reasons that athletes do get injuries, and there's not one single way to prevent these things from happening. If these different injuries occur to you or anyone that you know, please direct them to a qualified physician. Otherwise, many people just try to push through it, and that's definitely not the way to go. There are quite a big list of the most common injuries: broken bones, torn tendons, strained muscles. There are three different types of strains. A first degree strain is 10% of the muscle fibers have torn. A second degree strain, between 10 to 90% of the muscle fibers have been torn. A third degree strain, the muscle fibers have completely ruptured. The different the different types of sprains are a first degree sprain, which involves a stretched ligament without tearing. This may cause bruising, mild pain, along with a limited range of motion and stiffness. A second degree sprain are the most common, and this includes partial tear of the ligament, loss of use of the joint, bruising, swelling, and moderate pain. A third degree sprain, the ligament is completely tearing, joint instability, severe loss of motion, extreme swelling, extreme pain, particularly when physically using the joint. Strains occur in athletes when they throw, jump, or run, which are very common in baseball, football, and basketball. Chronic stress can occur when athletes who are involved in sports that require movements of muscles like golf, tennis, gymnastics, and rowing. Some of the most common sprains occur for athletes are knee sprains. This is often happening when you quickly pivot. Unfortunately, this happens very, very often when it's on turf. Turf has it When you pivot on turf, you don't physically rip the grass. You don't move any further than what the turf allows you to move. So this doesn't allow you to pivot when your body is trying to pivot. Ankle sprains when exercising on uneven surfaces. A thumb sprain is when overextension of the playing like racket sports. Wrist sprain when landing on a hand that is outstretched. This happens during a bad fall. There are certain risk factors that can increase the likelihood that an athlete will sustain a strain or sprain. Fatigue, if a muscle becomes very tired, it doesn't provide very much support for your joints. Poor equipment, footwear that doesn't fit properly or is poorly maintained is a very, very bad thing to do to yourself. Poor conditioning, that's kind of obvious. If an athlete is slacking off in conditioning, the muscles will be left weak. Failure to warm up properly. When muscles are tight, they don't have much range of motion and they become prone to tears and trauma. There are ways to prevent strains and sprains. Many people take this very lightly when they shouldn't. Stretching and warming up is so important. It allows your body to get prepared for the activity that it's going to go into. One thing that most athletes do and they do well is train for the sport that they're physically playing on a day to day basis. Practice makes perfect. If you practice, then you're preparing your body to play perfectly to the extent that you can. Knowing when to stop pushing, this was my biggest issue. Was I never quit. I always wanted to play. I didn't want to sit out. I didn't want to let my injuries rest. I always wanted to say that I was okay and that I can still continue to go. Eating a healthy diet, most athletes are very good at this. healthy diet clearly gives your body the right nutrients to perform. And now that you know a little bit more about the different sprains and strains and traumas that could happen to your body for injury, just understand that not every athlete can prevent these sports related injuries, and to there are different ways to reduce the risk, but there's not always going to be the same for everybody. And if you go through this or you know somebody to go through this, please direct them to a qualified physician to experience this injury. And if anyone if anyone does go through an experienced injury, please don't try to push yourself. I learned the hard way, and it made me sit out a lot longer than what I wanted to sit out for. Instead of just taking the proper measurements to heal, I would always push a little bit too far and make it so much worse. And that it would be everything for my informative speech, and thank you guys for listening. Have a good one.